Hello, everyone. Thank you all for joining. To our distinguished guests of all ages, welcome to what will no doubt be the most electrifying hour of your time here at the SID conference. What we have for you today is no ordinary conference panel where adults talk to one another about including young people in development. It's man versus machine and straight talk from young people on how to get out of their way. And to tell you more, I'll turn it over to our one-of-a-kind host, President and CEO of Plan, Shanna Marzilli.
Thank you, Paul, and thank you to everyone. I hope you are ready to play along at home. Let's kick off this thrilling ride by introducing our brave contestants. Please give a warm welcome to all of them, joining us live from their home locations and in no particular order. We have Mugabe, Alicia, Phelan, Nina, Catherine, and Ria. Welcome, contestants. Now, contestants, the challenges await on our wheel of questions. Are you ready? The rules are simple. Each of our marvelous contestants will be selected at random-ish to answer questions that are on all of our minds about meaningful youth inclusion. Contestants, our audience is ready to hear the wisdom you are about to dispense. Let's spin that wheel. Our first contestant is Phelan. Phelan, what are some of the potential barriers or obstacles that young people face when participating in youth advocacy, and how can they overcome them?
Yes, so hello everyone, and thank a lot for your questions. So from my perspective, maybe I will divide into two types of obstacle. So first, it may be about the subjective obstacle can become from the youth themselves. And I know that the youth like we still have a lack of a lot of time for participating in youth advocacy. So maybe they have to manage the time to participate in both in work and both in studying and youth advocacy. And also the second maybe about the ability, like sometimes they maybe don't have like full knowledge about some activity in youth advocacy, so they have to also face up with the problem about understanding deeply about youth advocacy. And the second type of obstacle that maybe objective obstacle maybe can come from the social norm, or maybe can some the gender discrimination. In my country and particularly in my rural area, the women is less respect and they are less given opportunity to participate in youth advocacy because they are supposed that they are not really intelligent and not really good to participate in youth advocacy. And also can be about the organization limitation. I don't know, but in my country, almost the non-profit organization, they usually give a lot of opportunity for participating in youth advocacy for men, not for women. So that is some obstacle that I think that youth maybe can face when they participate in youth advocacy. And the solution, I think that the first is they have to understand and they have to know what they have to face up with when they participate in youth advocacy, and they can do some preparation or some backup plan to solve the problem. And when they cannot solve by themselves, they can ask for the help from the people that they believe in, or maybe can from the governments or the others, or like the leader of their communities or something like that. Yeah.
That's wonderful. I think it sounds like a lot of the NGOs here could learn something about helping young people get past those barriers. So thank you. Can I ask my co-host to spin the wheel again? Looks like we're barely there on Alicia. So Alicia, in what ways can young people be supported in developing the necessary skills, knowledge, and confidence to effectively exercise power and leadership roles?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think Plan USA's Youth Leadership Academy is actually a great example of this. The YLA is a year-long program dedicated to teaching, supporting, and mentoring young activists to create change in their communities. And my first point is education and training. We use virtual orientations as well as a week-long program in DC in order to introduce our participants to a lot of these principles that we try to do in order to help them create their leadership projects, such as introducing them to intersectionality, SDGs like climate change and gender equality, as well as specific resources to develop their own leadership development projects in their communities. My second point is mentorship and role models. So throughout the school year, we provide a lot of mentorship from our youth advisory board members, as well as plan staff to help support our participants in creating their leadership projects throughout the year. During our YLA in DC, we also have a lot of awesome young activists that come in as guest speakers. My third point is also just bringing young people together in the same space. I think it's really important for young people to meet other activists across the US in order to not only learn from each other, but also be inspired by each other in order to think of new and creative ways to develop their leadership projects. So yeah, I think the high level takeaway is just education, training, participation and engagement, bringing young people together, as well as mentorship and support, which the YLA does all of those.
Oh, that's great to hear. And it's interesting how both you and Phelim have things in common, right? It's the training, but it's also providing the ongoing mentorship for young people. That's great. Let's see, can we spin the wheel again and get some more questions? We've yet to stump anyone. Catherine, are you ready? So here's my question for Catherine. How can conferences be organized in a way that makes their spaces available for young people to meaningfully participate and engage to their fullest extent?
Okay, thank you very much, Shanna. Firstly, the NGOs and other stakeholders should not leave youth behind in all decision making. All the youth events should be planned, organized, and coordinated by young people so that the young people they become youth friendly. Most young people prefer physical events because they want physical interactions, networking and connections. Hence, strengthening youth-friendly initiatives. There is a need of sufficient funding to support youth-led initiatives or events so that they implement them successfully. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. It's very interesting. You make a great point about making sure there's sufficient funding, and that, you know, if we really want spaces to be accessible and for young people to engage to the fullest extent, they really need to be part of planning those events. And I think that's something as a sector in international development, we can do a lot better really in those planning stages. So thank you. And here comes the wheel of questions again. Oh, Mugabe, you just missed. Okay, Nina.
Hi, everyone. I'm so excited to be here talking with you all about the youth and the youth perspective. So so excited to get this question.
All right, ready? So we just heard that young people like events in person, but we also know technology and social media platforms can be used to leverage and enhance youth participation and advocacy. So how can those platforms be used to enhance youth participation and advocacy and as a tool to amplify youth voices?
That's a great question, especially considering everyone my age that I know uses social media, and it's pretty much an integral part of their daily life. So this is definitely an important one to tackle. So first off, I think we can approach using social media and technology really through an educational lens. So launching and promoting online campaigns that truly emphasize the importance of young people's participation and advocacy, and just serve as kind of an informational tool to promote action from young people. Then we can also use social media and technology as a way to meaningfully connect youth across the world. And I envision this kind of being that sort of tool through online deliberative meetings on various advocacy issues, so as to gauge, the international youth perspective rather than just, and young person's perspective in isolation given their region that they live. Then I also feel as though we could use simple polls or petitions to gain, just a base level understanding of youth perspectives on certain advocacy issues, as well as use social media to connect the youth internationally through digital storytelling and community building. So social media is super, super effective in giving young people connections to each other. And I think seeing those real world pictures and stories of someone maybe living in a totally different part of the world could really promote a lot more collaboration and, community building within the policy world. But the one thing that I really wanted to point out was that tech facilitated gender-based violence and the dangers associated with gender-based violence online are super, super prevalent for young people on social media. And for that reason, in order to meaningfully and most effectively leverage social media to enhance youth participation and advocacy, we really have to tackle TFGBV. So that means, implementing various corporate, community, and governmental reforms to safeguard young people online.
And that's such a great point. I loved that, you were talking a lot about, we hear a lot about the ways that social media and technology divide us, and particularly divide women and girls. So I like all the ways that you're thinking about using it for good and for connection, but that I agree it's important that we don't forget that there are some real safety issues that need to be tackled, by government, by corporations, and by users to make it safe for everyone, to make this tool really available. Thank you. Let's see who we've got left on our wheel. It's dwindling. Okay, Mugabe, you have our next question. So let's talk about a favorite topic of everyone's, which is money. What are some examples of successful funding mechanisms for your youth entrepreneurship and innovation?
Right, thank you so much. I'm super duper excited to talk about one of my favorite topics in the world, money, because I believe it's complicated and it shouldn't be that way. To answer the question straight away, I'll talk about 5 money gems that I hope we can buy into. First and foremost is the grants and the awards. Basically, opportunities for us to get funding for our businesses, to do research, have product development, and just build the empire that we want to see for our respective businesses. I'm particularly excited for the SOI and the Plan International, which still works on empowering youth in the entrepreneurship aspect of things. The second aspect of this question I'd like to answer is the turbocharged option of the incubator and acceleration programs that provide funding, but also mentorship and resources that help us, build the businesses and the entrepreneurship skill set that we need to arm ourselves with. Last but not least is the 3-in-1 model, which I'll call crowdfunding, the angel investors and venture capital, which help us build industry experience and just fail forward, because we're all quick to talk about the wins that we're making as entrepreneurs, but we're also able to connect with like-minded people and grow the businesses to the places that we want to see them grow. And maybe a few viable examples I'll give is the There's the Global Innovation Fund that has been big in the startup world. And there's also the 500 startups under the Incubator and Accelerator Program. Yeah, thank you.
And those are great examples. I love that you're talking not just about funding and donations, but really talking about how young people can be part of creating social impact and having access to entrepreneurial funds. And I love talking about failing forward, because you're right. Sometimes we focus on the businesses that did well, but we learn every time we fail. And I think part of what we need to do is figure out how to get more of that funding flowing to young people so they have the opportunity to experiment, fail, and succeed. So thank you. All right, we're spin our wheel one last time. I think we've only got one person on it though, so maybe we can go straight to Ria. So youth policy, Ria, how can the perspectives and ideas of young people be better integrated into policymaking and decision-making processes?
Yeah, hi everybody. So I think that there are a wide variety of ways that the perspectives and ideas of young people can be integrated. I think that one great way to accomplish this would be creating youth advisory bodies to provide platforms for young people to voice their opinions and contribute to decision-making processes. These bodies should have a direct line of communication with policymakers and decision makers that would allow them to present their ideas and recommendations, which many organizations like Plan International have already begun to implement through, for example, their Youth Advisory Board, as previously mentioned by Alicia. Another method to utilize youth voices would be to provide youth-specific training to enhance their understanding about policymaking. You can also introduce youth impact assessments to evaluate the potential consequences of policies on young people, which I think is really important. This would ensure that policymakers consider the specific concerns of young people before finalizing whatever decisions they may be making. And yeah, as you can see, there are a lot of ways of integrating young people into policymaking, and I think that even incorporating one of the suggested methods could be extremely beneficial towards corporations' inclusion of youth.
Thank you. The impact assessment is very interesting, because I can think of a lot of policies that have been made where we turn around and say, oh, we didn't really fully understand the impact on young people. And because we didn't have their buy-in, maybe it's not going to work in the way that all the people involved in the policy would like it to. So thank you for those suggestions. I think those are all things we can think about implementing. So excellent job, all our contestants. Our next segment is really going to knock your socks off. But first, we have a word from our sponsor.
Thank you, Shanna, and great work, everyone, so far. Friends, have you ever tried to make your voice heard, but felt like you were being treated as just a checkbox on someone's agenda? Well, fear not, because we have the perfect solution for you. Introducing Youth Empowerment, the refreshing, minty treat that turns tokenism into triumph. Youth Empowerment is not just any ordinary mint. It's specially formulated with a secret blend of power shifting, meaningful engagement, and just a hint of boundary pushing. It's the perfect flavor to counteract those moments when you're stuck in a room full of decision makers who think they know what's best for you. Just pop one in your mouth and voila, suddenly lip service becomes genuine collaboration. But wait, there's more. Our patented youth confidence boost technology ensures that with every bite, you'll gain an extra ounce of self-assuredness, empowering you to take on the status quo. Keep on being a champion for your generation and make the world a better place. And now, back to our show. Over to you, Shanna.
Thank you, Paul. I hope I haven't aged out of that youth empowerment, because I feel like I could use a little bit of that going into the back half of this week. People of the audience, welcome back to this high stakes competition. And this is going to be an interesting part of the competition. So just as people like all of you are paying attention to youth voices and looking for ways to meaningfully partner with young people, along comes something and somebody who thinks they know everything there is to know about this topic, ChatGPT. But does ChatGPT really know what young people want? we're going to put that to the test, Family Feud style. We asked ChatGPT some questions about meaningful youth engagement, and we're about to ask those same questions of our contestants. Get ready to see how much they agree or not. Contestants, are you ready to play? All right. Our first survey question is going to go to two of our contestants, Alicia and Ria. And here is the first question. What is the future of NGO and youth advocate partnership? And what do we have to look forward to? And we're going to take your answers in alphabetical order. So starting with Alicia, what would you say the future is of NGO and youth advocate partnership? And what do we have to look forward to?
My answer would be increasing accessibility.
Do we have increasing accessibility on the board? Excellent. Yes, we do. And Ria, what would your answers be?
My answers, I think, would be energetic and cooperative.
Do we see energetic and cooperative on the board? Excellent. And what else have what else does ChatGPT survey says? What else? So the combination of our youth contestants and ChatGPT tell us, here's what we have to look forward to: collaborative transformation, shift in power dynamics, youth-led innovation. You know, we heard one of our contestants talk earlier about youth driving innovation and entrepreneurship, bringing fresh perspectives. Also the idea of authentic and genuine engagement between NGOs and youth. Empowerment and ownership. So not only being youth being included, but actually having the opportunity to own and lead and make decisions with NGOs. And then if we could scroll down to the last one, I just can't see the full screen. Global something. There we go. All right. Let's go on to our next question, which we are going to have answered by our remaining contestants. And the next question, so that will be Mugabe, Catherine, Nina, and Phelim. And this is something I know all our contestants were very excited to answer. And I think ChatGPT was pretty excited to answer it too. What do youth leaders want to tell NGOs and adult stakeholders in the international development community? Mugabe, would you like to go first?
Sure thing. One thing I'd like for the stakeholders to know is that we're looking forward to co-creating solutions. Those are my two words: co-creating solutions.
Excellent. And did our chatbot guess co-creating solutions? Doesn't look like it. Oh, do we have it on there? Excellent. And Catherine, what do you think? What would you like NGO leaders to know?
Okay, I just want them to know funding youth activities is a big deal.
Do we have funding activities on the board? We have empowerment and change. But that funding, I think, is a very important piece that you're noting. Who would like to take the next question or the next answer?
I
Ria?
think
Go ahead, Ian.
I was thinking technology-based and inclusion.
That's a good one. Equality and social justice. It's part of inclusion. And we do not have technology on there, right? Who'd like to take the next answer?
Maybe I would like to answer that. Like as the leaders in my community, I always want to know more about the opportunity and training. That is something that it's so hard for we to approach from the international development community. Yes, I think so.
So knowing, can you repeat the first part, the opportunity? I heard, I missed the second word.
Opportunity and training.
Great, opportunity and training. You guys are putting this chatbot to shame. Shame. Do we have anyone else who hasn't answered? Yeah. All right. Let's show survey says what chatbot, what wasn't on the board there. So climate action, sustainability, mental health, an interesting one. How do you all feel about, those? Do you agree with some of the ones that ChatGPT had on there? Anyone want to share a comment?
Sure, I could go. I think mental health is, and it's Mental Health Awareness Month, so I think that was a big one, spot on.
Yeah, it's great for, I think, NGO leaders to be thinking about that is top of mind for young people. What about climate action sustainability? I know this is something we hear a lot about from our Youth Advisory Board. Do you want NGO leaders to know if you're passionate about those things? Yes. Any comments? Anything you expected to see on that board that you didn't see?
I'm very surprised that my word, tech, and also social media at large wasn't featured, just considering how important that is to our generation.
Yes, I agree. And I was also very surprised funding opportunities were not on there as well, because we know from all young people that we talk to all around the world that it's great to have a seat at the table, but if there aren't opportunities to actually fund programs and ideas and advocacy, it's very hard to make progress. So I was surprised also that the funding opportunities weren't on there as well. So what do you think, ChatGPT? Not as smart as a young person? Excellent. Is there anything else from the previous question you think was important for our audience to know about how you all want to work with young people, how you want NGOs to work with young people?
Yeah, I think one thing that I've been thinking a lot about is how it's really important to have all young people of all diverse backgrounds and experiences able to participate. So the reason why I said increase accessibility is to make sure that young people with disabilities and young people that might come from backgrounds where they haven't had a lot of opportunities to speak up and advocate for themselves are able to have safe and supportive spaces in which they feel comfortable and supported in being able to be in high-level decision-making processes. So they're not only in advisory groups, but also at the table, speaking with decision makers on important issues that affect us.
I think that's such an important point. I know at you spoke earlier about Plan's Youth Leadership Academy, and I know that's something we've really kind of sunk our teeth into in the last couple of years, is to think about how can we make this opportunity available to a diverse group of young people who might not immediately say, oh, that's for me, or might not have heard about it. And I think that's, we've employed a lot of different ways to do that and learned a lot. Do you see good examples, all of you, in your work? I know all of you are very active in your communities. I know some of you are active with Plan. Have you seen good examples of where NGOs or donors or anyone else is doing a good job reaching a diverse group of young people of all abilities and genders and sexual orientation and everything?
Oh, well, I would like to share that in my countries, I know an international NGO that's called Vienna Capital Foundation, that we have a lot of groups in the society, like for ethnic minority children, ethnic minority girl like me. I'm also a receiver from this scholarship, and also for disabled children with the heart problem, and also for the poor people that they live in slums in my areas, and also for the disabled people like the homeless people, and also homeless people too. They not only like have for like a lot of class in the society from the children, adult, disabled people, but also they don't discriminate about the gender, man or woman. Yeah,
That's great. That sounds like reaching a lot of different populations. How about others? Mugabe, anything in Kenya that you've seen where local NGOs are doing a good job reaching diverse groups of people?
Yes, I would speak mostly about sustainable fashion. I've seen quite a number of NGOs and a few other private donors come on board and work with marginalized communities of single moms, especially they're really young, like as young as 16, 18, and we take them from I don't know if you guys have heard of a slum known as Kibera here in Nairobi, one of the biggest slums here in Africa, and just empower them financially, but also mentally, to make use of their skill set by making handcrafted brass jewelry, upcycled fashion pieces. So it's a win-win. So there's upcycled and sustainable fashion, but they're also financially empowered.
Thank you.
And known as Soko that does this. There's quite a number of brands that are doing this.
That's wonderful. Well, before we move on to our last question of the day, which is an audience poll, we have a little bit of time, and I wanted to give you the opportunity to share. In the audience today are a lot of NGO leaders, and they're here because they're really interested in how to bring youth perspectives into their work and to do meaningful partnerships with young people. And I wonder if you would mind sharing what's something that makes you excited or would make you want to work with an NGO, and what's something that you want to make sure NGOs don't make the mistake of doing when working with young people. Nina, could I call on you first? And it's okay to tell me if you want to pass.
Yes, one thing I think that's really important when NGOs are working with young people is that we're not only being surveyed on our experiences, but also being surveyed on what we think would be the best proposed solutions to the issues we've raised. So a lot of times I think that NGOs take that first step and then sort of drop the ball when it comes to implementing reforms and taking action. So just really engaging the youth at all steps of the process of advocacy, from the beginning stages all through the end.
Great point. Anything NGOs should stay away from? All right. Catherine, would you like to answer that question?
Thank you. The NGOs here in Zimbabwe, we are working with people with disabilities, and with disabilities, people living with HIV, and they also work with people who are homeless.
Great, thank you. Mugabe, any advice you have for NGO leaders in the room today? What makes you excited to work and partner, and what makes you say, oh, no, thank you?
Thank you so much. I like how Nina put it, basically authentic engagement and amplifying voices of youth, whether it's intergenerational dialogues or virtual coffee chats or fireplace chats to skill us mentally and physically and otherwise. That would be super duper exciting. I would jump at that opportunity to work with them. Things that NGOs should probably stay away from is refusing to challenge the status quo, sort of refusing to break barriers, refusing to, invite this out of the box thinking. Yeah, I think that would be a red flag. Thank you.
That's such a great point. And I think sometimes it's hard for us as adults to get out of the ways that we think. And I know in my own experience at Plan, like learning to listen and challenge maybe the way I think isn't maybe the way it should be, and to be open to new perspectives. I think that's really good advice. Phelim, how about you? Advice for NGO leaders here today? Things that would make you excited, and things you think NGO leaders shouldn't do?
I think that as a person, as a child already participated in or like about 3 NGOs, I think that the most thing that I really want to participate in an NGO is about the purpose of this NGO. Like I always care about like the main purpose or what they are aiming to do finally, and also I always cares about the group of vulnerable people in the society, and I think that almost of youth in the society, and particularly in my country, they want to help the weakness, the people with weakness, and the vulnerable people in the society. And yeah, that's
great. So you really, purpose is important to you, and making sure that they're communicating that to you, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ria, how about you? Do you have advice for NGO leaders?
Yeah, I think that one thing that NGOs should definitely make sure not to do is create youth advisory boards or create impact assessments and then choose not to change their policies based off of that information, or choose to misuse that information in a sort of way, because I think that with these resources and with these tools and like incorporating more youth, there comes a certain responsibility, and you have to make sure to use those tools wisely. But if they're used in a beneficial way, then I am excited to see what can be created and changed.
Right. So don't ask for a lot of input and support if we're never going to use it, right?
Yes, exactly.
Thank you. Alicia, anything?
Yeah, I think one thing that makes me really excited to be a part of NGOs is when young people are given the opportunity to take ownership over things. I think when I was serving on Plan's Youth Advisory Board, it was really cool to be able to take ownership of a lot of the policy initiatives that Plan was working on, as well as to develop the Youth Leadership Academy alongside other fellow Youth Advisory Board members. I would say one thing maybe that like NGOs shouldn't do, but that also they should be aware of, is to ensure that in getting a diversity amongst young people engaged, it is really important socioeconomically to allow for financial accessibility. One thing that we're doing in the YLA this year is to really prioritize recruitment from low-income schools and communities, and providing financial aid to make sure that young people without financial means are still able to participate in these opportunities and take ownership as well.
Those are great points. Thank you. I think that financial accessibility and the ownership, it's not just sitting around giving your opinion, it's actually being given the opportunity to lead and own and develop something is really important. Well, thank you very much. We are going to give our audience a chance also to compete against ChatGPT, because I think, learning from us putting this together was ChatGPT is super interesting and always fun to consult, but there's really no substitute for having young people at the table. And, as a sector, I would hope we're not going to let a robot be better at inclusion than us. So now, for our last question, we asked ChatGPT the following question, and we're going to ask you for your responses. How can we as adults, adult stakeholders, and NGO leaders check our assumptions, shift power, and get out of the way? We're going to put that poll up, and you can answer. We'll have that up for a few minutes, and then we'll share the answer. Very interesting. We've got some pretty evenly split here between continuously learning and letting and understanding youth experiences, letting go of control, questioning, challenging our assumptions, and creating safe spaces. And the twist on this is that all of these are important. And I think you heard in the last few minutes, all of our different contestants and youth participants talk about each of these in different ways. And I know letting go of control was the one with the fewest votes, but I know it's the one we often hear the most from young people. So thank you for participating in that poll. And we're going to start wrapping up for our game show where I hope you enjoy this game show where everyone's a winner. We've seen the power of youth today and the importance of meaningful partnerships. And I hope you've seen the potential for positive change. But let's not make our adventure stop here. Let's take these lessons and carry them forward, breaking down barriers, challenging assumptions, and creating spaces where everyone's voice is valued. Together, we are going to continue to rewrite the rules, shift power dynamics, and really pave the way for a more inclusive, impactful future with young people right by our side. So thank you for joining us on this journey. Keep shining and collaborating with young people. Thanks very much for attending.